YouTube, Kamen Rider here with a different type of ranking video for me today. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the modern Kamen Rider opening themes, meaning like from Kuuga through present, which is Gavv. Gavv is included on this. I'd say it's a tentative placement just because I've only listened to it a handful of times and it's one that could grow on me from here on out. And you know, this is a different type of video for me because if you follow the channel regularly, you know I'm not as into toku music as a lot of fans. You know, I know a lot of the fans I encounter, I don't know why that makes me feel like I'm encountering them like Pokemon trainers. Anyway, but like that I encounter get really into it, you know, the opening themes, the inserts, you know, sprawls out into other music. Same thing with like anime fans. I've always been very casual about it, too disinterested. It's kind of more like there'll be certain songs that'll really hit for me, but for the most part I wasn't as interested in as most people. In fact, a lot of times I get more into the background music. I'm a big like movie score guy. Like it's always really weird when I'm listening to music somewhere and someone's like, what are you listening to? Like the Dark Knight soundtrack from the scene when he's rising up out of the cave, and most people will give you like a band or whatever. Anyway, so that's kind of always been my thing, but I decided since we have a new opening theme on the horizon with Gavv, I would re-listen to all of them and add them to my playlist on Apple Music, which I was shocked at how much like Apple Music had for toku music. Like there was even some background like instrumental tracks I was able to find. Like there was always one track from Decade I always really liked. It's called Monster World. It's just an instrumental and I found it on there. But anyway, so I've been re-listening to them and I've discovered that I actually do quite like toku music more than I thought. Like I rediscovered my love for certain themes that I already liked that were in the playlist, but you know, kind of got drowned out because there's not a lot. And other ones that I forgot that I liked, that I actually remembered that like I didn't remember that I remembered, if that makes any sense. Like there were a lot I thought I never listened to. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this one. And then there are other ones that I really almost never listened to that I discovered I liked. Also, just quick disclaimer, this is going to be kind of a different critique because it's hard to critique music for me because I'm not like a music enthusiast or anything like that. I mean, I like music. You know what I mean? Like, I don't review music on the channel. So you're going to hear the words catchy and memorable and energy a lot just because it's kind of hard for me to describe a review for a song. This is kind of a first try. Give me some feedback. You know, I hope it's not too terrible, especially when it's coming from another language. A lot of the times I look for something that is memorable because it's harder for it to be memorable, I think, because it's in a different language, if that makes any sense. But anyway, that's like 2 minutes of preamble. This is ridiculous. So all three of you that are still here, one of those was me. I almost thought about walking out just then, actually. Let's get started. So honestly, I do want to say I don't dislike any of these themes. I didn't encounter any theme that I like hated or anything like that. For the most part, the ones at the bottom were on there because they were like not as memorable, like to the point where some of them where I would have to re-listen to it and I would forget it. It was kind of like when I asked someone's name and immediately forget it. What's your name? Hi, I'm Joe. Thanks for telling me your name, sport. The bottom of the list is Hibiki's second theme. Now this theme is fine. Like right now, I can't remember it. That's the thing. Every time I listen to it, I forget it. Like when I listen to it, it's a fine enough song. I just found it to be forgettable. Not to mention I do really love the first theme, which is pretty high up on this list. That's definitely one that I've always liked, regardless of like my time in toku music, because it's an instrumental. It, in a way, kind of represents Hibiki as a series, where the first one is unique because it's an instrumental. The first half was more unique. I mean, I think the series overall is unique, but then you get the second one for the second half that I don't like as much. Maybe there's a little bit of like dislike there because I don't like the second half of Hibiki as much, but again, I didn't hate this, I just found it forgettable. Runner-up is Ghost. This one also I found very forgettable. In fact, I just re-listened to it like 10 minutes before I watched this because there was a couple on here that changed positions, and I'm like, maybe that will be one. No. Like, it's fine. I totally find it fine, but I find it to be utterly forgettable. It very much, in a lot of ways, echoes my feelings on the show. I find it funny that there's some on this list that I feel my like of the theme, whether it's lower on the list like Ghost or higher, kind of lines up with my opinion on the show, and then there's others where I might not like the show so much, but their theme's like a banger or something. After that is Gotchard. Honestly, I find this one to be pretty solid. It's just kind of fine for me. I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. Like, I re-listened to it a couple times. It's not as forgettable as the other two, but I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm not as enthused about Gotchard, and maybe it's one that'll grow on me, but yeah, it's fine. Saber is kind of along the same length. That sounded weird. I mean, I guess it works because of the sword thing. Ah, thank you. But, you know, similar to Gotchard, where I find it pleasant and enjoyable, but nothing particular stand out about it where I have too much to say about it, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Next up is the first Blade theme. This is one, like there's two Blade themes. There's only a few on this list that I remember having two. Like I went through and double checked. There's a chance I forgot one, but Blade's one of the ones that has two themes. And Blade's first one was always more forgettable for me. I always remember like the way the intro looked in terms of when you're watching the show, but I never remember the theme that much. Kind of along the lines of a lot of these like lower tier ones. When I listened to it, I liked the song fine, but it just one that didn't stick with me. That's probably a phrase you're going to hear a lot in this one too, is sticks with me or didn't stick with me. Picking up is Fies. Fies is a weird one because it is very memorable, but I always only liked it alright. Like, sometimes you just can't really describe it. Like, when I was re-listening to it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this one, and yeah, that was kind of it. This critic's going great. But yeah, it's just lower on the list because it is one of the more memorable ones for me of the lower tier, but it's just not a favorite of mine. Like, it's one that I only like fine. Or like Fies. Suck it, Fies fans. I wonder how many people actually remember that joke. Next up is the second Blade opening, which I like this one just a lot more, especially the beginning part. I really enjoy the beginning part. That's the point that really sticks with me. It's funny though, going back to this, like for re-listening it, I remembered that Blade remembered that Blade had two openings, but I couldn't really remember them that much, and I was surprised by how much I liked the second one. Not like I was expecting to hate him or anything, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is a really good one. I really like this one. Next up is tentatively Gavv, which my notes just switched to Gavv. I left like all of the little notes it changed just because I thought it was funny. So Gavv's theme so far I think is very solid. I really enjoy it. I think it's pretty catchy. It's got a good energy. I enjoy it. It's just kind of tentative placed because, you know, I'm not going to listen to it every time. I'm not going to pretend. You know, if they put it on Apple Music, I'll probably add it and listen to it. But sometimes I just want to, you know, save those 2-3 minutes or whatever. But I really do like it, and there's a chance that, you know, it'll probably stay here, or it could rise up in the ranks if I, you know, grow to like it more. Next up is Drive. Drive is a weird one because this is a memorable one, but it's only because of like the beginning part, and I just remember all you need is drive. Like whenever I listen to it, I really enjoy it, but I find almost everything about it to be more forgettable until they say something like all you need is drive. But I really do like this one, and it really gives me the vibe of the energy of the series, which is something I like as well. After that is Wizard. Wizard I feel very similar about, where it's like one of those ones where the beginning is the most memorable for me, and anytime they say showtime, it kind of sticks out to me, but like everything in between is almost like white noise. Like it's just, again, because it's not in my native language, it's harder for me to latch onto a lot of it, so like it needs to have something memorable about it, like with the beat and the energy. And Wizard and Drive are very similar in the sense that I really remember some of the key phrases. This sounds like a child reviewing something. I mean, this is what the channel is. But anyway, like the key phrases or beats, and I really like them, but they're just kind of middle of the road. Kabuto's a really interesting and memorable one. I always really liked the Kabuto theme, but I always was surprised by it in the sense that, I don't know if this makes any sense, but like its energy and vibe fit the show, but like wasn't what I was expecting. Like I don't know why, but I remember when I first watched the series, I was just surprised by the opening theme. Like I don't know, I thought it was gonna have a more extreme theme somehow, and sometimes I'm not extreme, but I don't know if that makes any sense, but like more of a moody one. But this does fit the mood, but just in a different way than I thought. I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but I just always remember that. Next up we have Fourze. Fourze is honestly just a really fun one. This is definitely one where I enjoy the beginning part the most, and I don't know what it's repeating. It sounds like it's repeating the wall, the wall, the wall. Chaka, when the walls fell. But this is a really fun, like I said, catchy. I just said that twice now. I said I was gonna repeat things, then I repeated it twice. So anyway, it's fun and catchy. I really like this one. This is a series that I'm like lukewarm on. Honestly, I've softened to the series over the years, but it's definitely one of those ones where like I like the theme song a lot more than the series, and it's definitely one that I always am happy when it comes up on the playlist because I think it's just a fun song. Next up we have Geo. Geo and Decade are honestly back to back. I have Geo here and then Decade is the next one, and they both feel very similar. They feel like slightly slower songs. I think Geo's got a little bit more energy as you go into the Overcourtser, and like that title and repeating aspect makes it more memorable, but I really like both of these themes. Like again, I'm doing these kind of together, but Geo's here and then Decade's after that. They are a little bit slower, they don't have as much of an upbeat energy, but I feel especially Decade's kind of captures this feel of the series. And I remember Decade's theme really surprising me when I first watched it, because it was the second Rider series I watched live. You know, I watched Skiba, which is very high up on this list in terms of his energy, and I love that theme. And this kind of more subdued feel was surprising, but I really like it, and it's kind of one of those ones, the more I listen to them, the more I like them. So yeah, it's Geo and then Decade after that. Then we have Revice. Revice was actually lower on this list when I started. Not like it was one I disliked, but it was just lower on the list. And this is one, like, the more I listened to it, because I started to work on this this video, like, in a way, a few weeks ago when I added them to the list, because I wanted time to, like, listen to them in the car and working out or whatever I'm doing. And this is one that, like, every time it came up, I just learned to like it more. Like, it's got such a great energy. Again, I'm using those buzzwords, but yeah, it just got a great energy. It's like catchy enough, but also it's one of the few ones where I feel that it doesn't have like key phrases or anything in the middle that's like super easy catchy for a small brain like me, but at the same time it really sticks with me. And in fact, I don't know why, but I always got this one mixed up with Geats for the first few times I listened to it when it would pop on the playlist, like in the car. I'm like, oh, it's Geats, but then it wasn't. I'm like, oh, this is Revice. And like, again, not that I disliked it when I first put it on the list, but like every time I listened to it, I'm like, why was it so low on the list? I really like this one. So yeah, really like the revised theme. It's one that like really grew on me as time went on. After that is 01. This is one of the ones that I really didn't remember that much. Like once I listened to it, I did remember it, but it's definitely one I listened to like 1-2 times tops when the series came out. And I like this one. It's got the 01, 01, 01. I'm like, yes, a catchy, memorable part. It's easy for my stupid brain. But yeah, this is a good theme. 01 is like one of my least favorite series. Like, again, I don't hate that series at all. I just didn't connect with me, but it's got a really great theme. I'm like, oh, this is really good. I'm disappointed in myself I didn't listen to it more. Gavv. Gavv is an interesting one. Despite my love of Gavv, it's like one of my top favorite series. I didn't listen to the theme all that much. I always remembered the don't just say no, don't live more, but I only remembered it as a catchphrase because like a lot of people would just say that a lot during the time Gavv was airing. But I just didn't remember it a lot. And then like listening to it, I'm like, another one, I was like disappointed in myself that I didn't listen to it more because it's a really great one. Like it's got a really good energy, a really good catchy beat. It's got a good catchy like catchphrase, and it just reminds me of how much I liked Gavv as well. I think it has like kind of a slow, very, very beginning before it kicks in, which is maybe why it didn't seem as memorable to me. But it's a really great song. That this and 01, it's interesting. There's some similar ones back to back in terms of sentiment of how I felt about it. Where I'm disappointed I didn't listen to it more back in the day, but I'm glad I like it now. Agito. This is definitely one of the most memorable ones. I think this is an interesting one because it's got kind of a slower feel. But with a memorable, catchy, like, you know, ready to go, count 0. Wow, let me sing the song for you. Ready to go, count 0. It's, you know, lyrics are catchy and memorable and has a nice energy, yet it remains having this kind of slower energy at the same time, which I really like. I almost find it to be a very relaxing theme to listen to, and I really enjoy it. Next up is Ryuki. Honestly, my favorite thing about this is the beat. The dun 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 dun. This is another one that I always get happy when it comes on. It's just, I don't know, I really always like that part. I'm hearing it in my head right now. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that? I can hear it in my head right now. So like the lyrics and stuff are memorable to me because of the beat, but it's really the beat, especially the beginning, that stick with me the most as one of the most memorable ones. Like this is one of the few going in that I did really remember before I did a re-listen. Double. Double is probably one of the most nostalgic for me on this list. I just really like this one. Re-listening to it, I really got into the vibe and energy, and it really transports me back to that time when Double came out, which is really nostalgic in terms of my Rider fandom because it came out right around when I was starting the channel-ish. I want to say it was 2009, 2010. I honestly can't remember. Timeline's messy. Damn it, Barry. But I definitely started early with some Double stuff. Heyo. It reminds me a lot of getting into the channel, getting into the community back when the old RR podcast first started. So it's a very nostalgic song that it just takes me right back to that sort of time and a nostalgic vibe when I re-listen to it. Next up, Kuuga. This is a great one. This is just simple, memorable, and effective. And it just really, I think, sells the vibe of the series really well. It sells the vibe of the series very well, man. What accent is this? I don't even know what accent. Is this Russian? I don't know what accent this is. Anyway, I really like this theme. It's just simple and effective. That's what I wrote down. It's simple, effective, memorable. Boom. Keywords done. Next up, Geats. I really like the Geats theme. It's got a really, again, I don't know why I mixed it up with Revice, but it's got a really memorable beginning, and just all throughout I think it maintains this really great energy and it just keeps me hooked in it, and I think it overall sells the vibe of the show, and it's one of those ones that I'm always most excited about when it comes up on the playlist. After that is Build. I struggled whether to place these, you know, Build or Geats or Build, because part of me likes the Geats one a little bit more. I like the energy and the singer a little bit more. But I really like Builds a lot. In the sense, I forgot how much I liked this one. It's also really catchy and memorable, and it's got a unique energy. It's also one that I didn't expect in a way, in terms of like Kabuto, where when I first listened to it, I don't know why I was expecting something different, but yet when you listen to it, it just makes sense. And I really like this one a lot. Next up is O's. I've always really liked the O's theme. This is a really interesting one that has like a contrast of the two vocalists in it, where you have like the main song and then you have the O's, 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 count the medals, 1, 2, and 3. I think that makes it really memorable having those two contrasts, and I really like it. And you got that kind of ska vibe to it, where like anytime I hear any sort of ska song, I'm not really much into ska. The only one that I remember is the impression that I get. Is that even a ska song? Regardless, anytime I think of ska music or anyone mentions it, and I don't even know if this is considered it, there's probably a music person like, oh, you ignorant hussy, that's not even ska music. But regardless, it reminds me of ska music is what I'm getting at, and whenever someone brings it up, I immediately hear Count the Medals 1, 2, and 3. Also a very nostalgic song that takes me back to early times in the fandom of the RR podcast, and especially like the CS Toys era of trying desperately to get the medal set before anybody else did. You know, only wheel ones remember that one. Thanks, Kripke. Next up, Den-O. Love the Den-O theme. That's just one of the most catchy and memorable ones. There's those key words, but yeah, I love the Den-O theme. Also, okay, and this is also a repeated point, but a nostalgic one for me. Den-O, I think, was the first series I backlogged on. I think I watched it in full as Kiva was airing, because I started with Kiva, and then I think I watched all of Den-O during the time Kiva was airing. So I think this was technically the first Rider series I fully watched. I guess it was the one I fully watched, and takes me right back to that energy and excitement. And plus, I always just really liked Den-O, and it matches the energy of the show, it matches the energy of how I feel about that show, and another nostalgic one for me. Ex-Aid. Ex-Aid's a really good example of one where I like the song more than the series. Don't get me wrong, I like Ex-Aid. If you followed the channel for any sort of extended period, you know I had a kind of turbulent relationship with that show, but at the end of the day, I found like for it, wouldn't mind revisiting it. But God, the theme is so good, man. Like, just, even when I didn't like the show, you can't deny, the theme is just, it's an absolute banger. Like, it's fantastic. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love it. I mean, I'm sure you can agree. Hibiki, number 1. This was one always been my favorite, again, as someone who appreciates. I'm a good talker, guys. This is why I do this. As someone who appreciates, like, instrumental-like music, I've always really liked this one. I like that it kind of represented that Hibiki is more unique. It's always been one that's been a favorite, even when I was more lukewarm on Toku music. In fact, I believe it was I don't remember if it was my ringtone or my alarm for a while. It's funny going through these, I remembered when I had Toku-themed like alarms. I think this was my alarm, and like Gorai, which was the da-na-na-na-na-na-na, was my ringtone for a while. Also, my alarm for a while was da-na-ba from the Gaia memory. Anyway, that was like during my double fedora phase. We've all had it, guys, don't lie. Number 1 for me is Kiva. Now, this is obviously tied to a little bit of nostalgia because that was my first series, but even setting that aside, I love the theme. I think it perfectly encapsulates the vibe of the series, especially when you watch the opening. It's just so memorable and badass, and it's without question my favorite Rider one. Like, I was curious if it was gonna lower in the ranks because of like nostalgia and stuff like that, but no, it's, in my opinion, for me personally, the right mix of a nostalgic attachment to the series, but also the song just holds up. And again, it's the only series that currently I actually have other music in my playlist. Like, I think maybe 1 or 2 scattered throughout, but Kiva's the only one that I have like insert songs and some instrumentals in my playlist as well. So yeah, I've always loved the Kiva thing. But anyways, guys, that's it for mine. I hope this was okay. Again, it's kind of harder for me to critique music because it's not something I usually do, especially not in my native language, so I still hope this video is okay. If you did like it and you'd like to see more, I'm considering doing some for Sentai. I'm not sure how I would tackle that because there's so many. Like, this list alone is pretty long. This video is going to be at least almost 20 minutes by the time Future Dawson gets to editing. Also, note to Future Dawson editing, I hate you. It would be like quite a long one going from Go Ranger to now, so I don't know if I would just try to make the whole dang thing or whether I would segment it. And the PR one also needs updating, but bottom line is let me know if you're interested in seeing more. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, climb the steps, and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.